I'm back to part 3 of part 5. I do apologise for the video ending suddenly again. Apparently it was a memory problem. What joys of modern technology. So we'll carry on where we left off, which is row 50, and I've worked almost around the blanket. Just going to do the last few puff stitches into those double crochet cluster sets. 1, 2, 3 and 4. I will upload all 3 of these videos at the same time so that there's no gap in you being able to complete the blanket. So I'm working the last of the puff stitches. I'm going to chain 1 and then just front post double those 10 stitches that are left along the side edge, and this will complete row 50. And then just join into that first stitch with a slip stitch, snip off the yarn, fasten off and pull through. So if you want to complete your 4 sides of row 50, and I'll meet you at the start of row 51. So we're ready to start row 51. Going to start again in the corner with 2 doubles, a chain 1 and 2 more doubles. We're going to skip the first 2 stitches, which are the corner stitches from the last row. We're going to work a double crochet into each of the front post doubles along this side. So it's the 10 front post doubles that we did on the last row. We're just going to work a normal double into each of those stitches. So we've got the two doubles, chain 1, 2 doubles, skip 2 stitches, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 doubles across. So we now come to the part where we're working on row 49 and row 50. So we're going to do a front post treble around the first half of the cluster, which is this stitch here from row 49. So we'll work a front post cluster around that stitch, and then we're going to front post double the puff stitch from row 50, and then we're going to work a front post treble around both of the clusters from row 49, and then a front post double around the puff stitch, and then we've got 2 front post trebles worked down onto row 49 around both of the clusters. We're just going to carry on along the side, working the front post trebles around each of the cluster stitches from row 49, and we do a front post double around the puff stitch. And we're going to carry on that pattern repeat all the way along to the last 12 stitches. So again, if you want to pause the video at this point and work all the way along, and I'll meet you when we get to the last puff stitch of the side. I'm coming up to the last 2 puff stitches. So we've got a double around this next one, and then the 2 front post trebles around the clusters, and then the last double front post double around that last puff stitch. Don't forget that last front post treble around the cluster, and then we've got 10 doubles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10, and then we're going to skip those last 2 stitches and join, or you would be at your next corner. The next corner will be the 2 doubles, chain 1 and 2 doubles, and then skip those first 2 stitches, 10 doubles across those 10 stitches, and then we start with the front post trebles around the clusters and front post doubles around the puff stitch. So if you want to pause the video and work all 4 sides exactly the same, you can then fasten off the yarn and we'll be ready for the next row. So we're now ready to start row 52. Going to start as always in the corner space, but we're working with 2 double crochet clusters with a chain 1 in between, and we'll have 4 of those. So we start the first double crochet cluster, chain 1, and then a second double crochet cluster, chain 1, a third, chain 1, and then the last one. So we've got 4 all together to form the corner. We're now going to work a back post double around each stitch all the way along to the end, and then we're just going to do that same corner as we've done on this one. So it's a nice straightforward and easy round to do. We've got the 4 double crochet clusters in the corner with 3 chain spaces, 1 between each of the clusters. We don't do a chain at the end, just in between the 4 clusters. So we just work those back post doubles right up to the last stitch of the side, and then we work the 4 double crochet cluster with a chain 1. There's 1, 2, 3 and 4, which brings you to the next side where again it's just 1 back post double around each of the stitches. So if you want to pause the video at this point, work all 4 sides exactly the same, and I'll meet you for the start of row 53. So we're going to start row 53 in the corner space, into the chain space between the first 2 and the second 2 of the clusters. So we're going to do 2 double, 1 chain and 2 double, and then we're going to front post double both of these clusters from round 52. There's one and there's the second one, and then it's another really easy row of just working 1 double into every stitch all the way along. So again, it's another round where you'll possibly want to pause the video and work this round of just doubles apart from the corners where we've got the 2 front post doubles over the clusters that formed the corner of the last row. If you want to keep informed of new videos that are put onto the channel, if you click on the bell underneath the video, that will make sure that you always get a notification that another video has been uploaded. And I've also put all of the videos for this particular throw, the Ashley's Jewel Mandala, are all in a separate playlist. The other throws that we've done have their own playlist as well, just in case you want to save the playlist for your own use. I do believe that you can save my playlist to your account so that you've got all the patterns in one place. So I'll let you again pause the video at this point and work your 4 sides around for row 53, and I'll meet you at the start of row 54. So on to row 54. As you can see with this blanket, I've not followed any particular colour theme at all. I actually started it with an intention to use up the odd balls of yarn that I had. I very often buy more than I actually need for a project, just in case they actually run out. So I've used literally whatever I've had left from quite a few different projects to make up this blanket. It's literally been a case of pop my hand into the bag, pick out a colour and start the next row. So into the corner space, which is between the 2 doubles and the next 2 doubles here, we're going to work a V-stitch, and then chain 1 and do another V into that same chain space. So we've got 2 V-stitches in the corner. The pattern repeat now is going to be the same all the way along. We're going to skip 2 stitches and work a V into the next stitch. skip 2 stitches and work a V. So we're going to do this all the way along the side right up to the corner, and we're going to do the 2 V's with a chain 1 in between into the corner space. Don't forget to skip 2 stitches in between each of the V stitches. When you've completed this round, you will have 46 V stitches along each of the sides. If you just want to do a quick check that you're still on track with the stitch count. So again, you can pause the video at this point and work the V stitches all the way around, and then when you get to the last V stitch, you'll then join into this first side of the V of the corner, and then you can fasten off the yarn and we'll be ready for the next round. And on to row 55. I'm going to start in the corner space where we had the chain 1 stitch before the in between the 2 V's. So into the corner chain space we're going to work the 2 doubles, chain 1 and 2 doubles. We're now going to work a 4 loop puff stitch into every V along the side. So the very first puff stitch is going to go into this first V that formed the corner. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. Pull through, and then we're going to chain 2. So we finish the puff stitch with a chain, we do another chain as well, and then straight into the next V stitch, and we'll work another 4 loop puff stitch. Again, if you've done the 5 loop puff stitches, if you prefer a bigger stitch here, you can do the 5 or a 6 loop puff stitch. For me personally, I think the 4 loop puff stitch is perfectly fine for this row, but do feel free to use whichever one you prefer. Chain 1 and then straight on into that next V stitch with a 4 loop or 5 loop puff stitch. Chain 1. We're going to carry on all the way along the row exactly the same. So if you want to pause the video at this point and work all 4 sides are exactly the same, a puff stitch followed by a chain 1 in each and every V stitch all the way along, including the V stitch that forms the corner as well. So on this row you will have the 2 doubles, chain 1, 2 doubles, and then we go straight into the popcorn in that very first V and carry on all the way along, working the last popcorn into that last V before the corner, and then just join with a slip stitch into the first stitch that we started the corner. So I'll let you pause the video again at this point, and I'll meet you again for the last row of this part. And now we're on to row 56. This is the very last row of the blanket. We're starting in the corner space with 2 doubles, a chain 1 and 2 doubles. We're now going to skip the first stitch. We're going to work a double into the next stitch. We're going to work a double into the space, and then we're going to work a picot front post double around each of the puff stitches with 2 double crochets in the space in between. So a picot front post double is work a normal double front post double, and then we work 2 chain. We're now going to take the hook and slip it through the top 2 bars, as you can see there, of the front post double that we've just worked. We yarn over and pull through all 3 of the loops. We work 2 doubles into the space, and then I'll show you again how to work the front post picot. So we work a normal front post stitch around the puff stitch, and then we're going to chain 2, and then we put the hook into those 2 loops at the top of the stitch. So we've got 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 together, and that will form the picot stitch. I'll do a few more just so that you've got the hang of the picot there. So we've got 2 doubles, and then we work the front post double around the stitch, 2 chain, and then we're going to join with a slip stitch under the 2 bars to form the picot, and then work 2 doubles into that next stitch. Front post double with the picot, and then 2 doubles. So it gives a little bit of a different edge that we've got the little picot stitch that sits above the front post double, the front post double that's round the puff stitch. I'll just show it zoomed in a little bit just so that you can fully see how the stitch is worked. So we do a regular front post double around the puff stitch, chain 2, and then we're going to put the hook into the 2 bars at the top of the front post stitch. Push the stitch slightly to the back. We've got 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through all 3, and then go back to the 2 doubles in the next stitch. So we're going to carry on all the way around this row, working exactly the same. 2 doubles into the space between the puff stitches, and then a front post double around the puff stitch with the picot at the top. And we just carry on all the way around. So I'll work around up to this corner again to show you how to do the last few stitches on the side. So I've come all the way around until we've reached the last puff stitch, so I'm going to do the front post double with the picot onto that last puff stitch, and then we're going to do a double into the space before the corner. We're going to do a double into the next stitch, and then we skip the very last one. We're just going to join into that stitch with a slip stitch and then fasten off the yarn and pull through. So that completes the whole of Ashley's Jewel Mandala blanket. Because this final video is actually split into three, I'll just name the three videos part 5, 6 and 7 to make it easier. I hope you've enjoyed crocheting along with me. I hope you'll join us for the next project. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.